Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
Good evening, everybody. It is a time of year. Again, it is draft weekend. I am just finished the draft just moments ago and joined by Jason Braddock. We are here to talk about and to live broadcast the Dr. Roto Staff League. How are you, Jason?
Oh, I'm doing good. Always fired up and excited for this time. Always fun to do any type of broadcast with Danger. Now with this expert draft last year, it was so tough. I mean, I've never had a draft where I was sniped so often consistently. So it makes you take a completely different perspective to how you're going to set up your board, how you're going to draft, and you actually have to have a strategy, or you're left at the end of the draft with that, oh no, with your head in both hands.
Oh man. And you know, we spend all day, all off season with each other, right? We're reading each other's articles, we're watching the projections change, we're playing around with the cheat sheets. And darn it, if we don't all snipe each other, right? How weird is that?
At 100%. So I mean, that's it. So even if you're not commenting on each other's, and you're not going back and forth saying, hey, I disagree with this or disagree with, or I agree with that. So you don't know what you see eye to eye on, excuse me, in that regard. So it's something I look forward to ever since we started it last year. And I kind of feel like I let myself down last year. So I'm coming back with a vengeance this year. And I'm prepared. I wasn't prepared to be sniped that often last year, Danger. I'll be honest, they got me quite a few times and put a hole in my strategy, but haven't revealed a lot of my strategy this year. I'm ready to go.
Well, you know, if anybody's going to do it to you, it's me, my friend, because I pulled the 11, you pulled the 12. We're drafting back to back at the end of the draft, and I'm going to try to steal some knowledge from you right now. So last year, you blew up the world. I don't know if you remember, Jason, but I put you to it on the Braddock's breakdowns last year, and I said, give me something that people don't know right now. And you told me Deebo Samuel came into camp with 15 pounds of more pure muscle, looking like a freak, and look what happened last year.
Yeah, so let's peel the curtain back a little bit here. We're going to kick off this draft in a little bit, but just to expand on that, my nephew, Pearson Braddock, he came down last year and rolled for South Carolina Gamecocks to train with Abdul Foster. Abdul been friends with for years. A lot of people may know him from Nine Innovations, the gym down here in Houston. He ran Arian Foster's brother, and a lot of Arian Foster being Abdul's brother, and a lot of the Texans would train down there with him. Well, while Pearson was training and wearing his Gamecocks gear, another trainer there that I'm very familiar with, him and Pearson started up a conversation, and he was talking about how he trains Deebo Samuel and trained him this offseason. He was about to have a breakout year, started telling us about the 15 pounds of muscle and everything. And I know how Abdul trained Arian and what they put into this training. A lot of NFL players, NBA, a lot of different guys come through there. And so it just let me know Deebo's getting ready to have a breakout year. So yeah, those little nuggets like that can really help you. And hopefully anyone who's getting ready for a fantasy draft coming up, information from Danger, myself, and the entire staff here at drroto.com, I think it can help you whether you're playing for fun with friends and the right to talk trash, or if money's on that line and you're looking to cash.
Well, I'm going to play a dangerous game here, my friend. I'm going to share the screen so people can watch the picks, right? So that means I can't set a queue. It's a dangerous game. It's a dangerous game, my friend.
So you're going to go live. And listen, again, behind the scenes here, you have a couple things going on. I mean, I'm not ever going to ask you to plan anything serious for me after I see how you've set up your draft weekend this weekend.
Oh, man, I made some mistakes. Mistakes were made. However, I just did the Beat Johnny Danger League that I drafted from the wheel. I ended up with yet another 0 RB strategy because that's just how it fell. I didn't like it. I didn't love it. And I'm giving away a free month of all access, drroto.com, to anyone who finishes higher than me, and 2 free months of all access to the winner if it's not me.
Oh, wow.
So that'll be fun. It filled up quick, and we finished that draft. We finished that draft in 45 minutes.
How do you feel about your team?
You know, I'm not excited. I'm not excited at all. It's all right. It's all right. We'll see how it plays off. It's ugly. It looks an awful lot like the one I put in our Discord. But I'll read it off to you. I got Patrick Mahomes at the top. I got Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs. I pulled up with Robert Woods, Lockett, Gallup, and Rondell Moore to finish out the wide receivers. I waited way too long on running back, of course. Antonio Gibson, CEH. I got Singletary, which I actually really love Singletary this year. Pollard, hoping for Zeke to go down. Ronald Jones is a backup. And Madison, hoping he gets traded somewhere where he can play.
Yeah, I like the strategy there with Madison. I think him and Dearness Johnson in Cleveland are two backs when you look at the depth on their roster in front of them and behind them. You also look at their contract situation. Those guys could be one-year rentals, both still fairly young, that could go and whether starting running back falls down or if a team's lacking a true number two back that's been trialed and tested in the NFL, if you will. I think those guys could definitely be had for, let's say, a conditional 5th round pick in the 2023 draft. And I think teams, especially if there's something to play for here at the beginning of the year and lack that depth, the return on investment just outweighs that 5th round pick at this point.
All right. So are you going to give me this year's Deebo Samuel, or are you keeping it to yourself?
I'll tell you this. I won't give you Deebo Samuels because like I said, I got snapped last year. I got a little bitter taste in my mouth. So I'm going to try to wash that out. The one thing I will tell you, and, Doc's drafted with me for years, and he pretty much knows how I'm going to do it. I don't know if it's a strategy. I'm just going to pound running backs and wide receivers. I'm just hitting those. I typically wait. And I try to wait as long as possible, as long as I'm comfortable with, to draft those quarterbacks and tight ends, obviously the kickers and defense. But quarterbacks and tight ends, I just think I can, in today's pass-happy NFL, I think I can replicate that type of production later in the draft with a quarterback. Same thing with tight ends. You've got guys, and I'm not going to even name them, Danger. I told you I've got that bitterness. I'm really playing it close to the vest. I'm playing to win this year. My pride's on the line. But you've got number one tight ends that will go undrafted.
I like it. Hey, we got our first guest. He is going to be drafting with us this year. Last year, he took me out in the semifinals and went to the championship. We've got Mr. Heat Override. How you doing?
Oh, yeah. What's up, gentlemen? How y'all doing today? You ready to bring the pain to this draft?
Always, my friend. You have the number 2 pick. The lovely Sam Holt will be drafting in front of you. Who are you hoping she goes with so you can take the person you want?
Yeah, let us know your strategy.
She's going with Naji, so I got everybody.
There's no way she's drafting Naji.
She's not going Naji first.
No
you
way.
Think so?
Her heart's going to take over. He's going to get some PPR. It's a full point. Let's go. But if she takes Jonathan Taylor, I have some ideas.
You have some ideas.
Yeah, I do. I'm going to do this draft a tad different than I've done a lot of other drafts so far this year, which means I'm going to ignore some of the rules.
All right. Well, you do that every year.
Right.
And somehow it always works out for me. That's the funny part.
And that's
never apply to Heat.
That's the true part as well. I mean, you did bring home the championship last year, so kudos.
No, he didn't.
To you.
No, he didn't. He got beat. He got
beat.
He
got beat in the championship.
Yeah.
I got beat.
That's right.
That 2-week championship. I had Lamar Jackson. He was out the whole time, and I didn't have Christian McCaffrey. The team was banged up, but waiver wire is where you try to win your championship, and that's what I did. And the only person on the waiver wire that had a good matchup was Ben Roethlisberger.
So is there a strategy that you're attacking this expert draft with tonight?
So since I know that the PPR is a full point, I'm seeing that a lot of people will be using their pick early on wide receivers. So I might just go 0 wide receiver at first and just load up on running backs while everybody goes for them, because in the end, you can catch 6, 7, 8 balls, but if a guy runs in a touchdown, he's right next to you. I know that, that might not be the norm in a PPR, but I'm never normal anyway.
That's a true point, my friend. All right, we got another guest. Heat, we'll talk to you. We'll check into you after we get the first round or so done.
Heat, shock the world. Heat, before you go, Who you taking number 2? Go ahead and shock the world.
Come on,
You said Sam's going Najee. No fear here.
Derrick Henry.
I don't believe
Derrick
it.
Henry. Derrick Henry.
No, I'm calling bluff. We'll see it live in a minute. We'll catch up with you in a second.
All right, brother.
Well, it looks like one of the interns is on. I don't know if he's actually there, if he's just listening in. Who knows? Bryce, are you here? You're muted, but are you here? Maybe, maybe not. Well, we'll check in back with him in a little bit. All right, Jason, we are just 2 minutes away. What are you thinking at the wheel, buddy? What are you thinking? You hoping a couple of quality running backs drop your way? Are you okay with Danger's strategy earlier and taking the 2 big wide receivers?
No, I prefer to get a running back. I'm not going to go. I know there's a lot of talk, 0 running back strategy. I get it. Obviously, there's different ways. The old saying, "What more than one way to skin a cat." That must have been a bad time in American society. Right. when we're all skinning cats different way. But anyway, back to this though. My thing, I'm not going to get over creative with it, and not to bore you with it, but it's really going to be best player available for me to kind of go cliche with the NFL draft or any type of draft strategy. So I know it sounds cliche, I know it sounds corny, but yes, if I am peeling it back a little bit, I am hoping one of those top premier running backs fall to me. But when I say that, my top premier running backs aren't what I see the consensus ranking, let's say, of the top 5, because traditionally with running backs, I'm always a little bit more cautious with the injury history. I'll say that.
Fair enough. All right, we are 1 minute away from kicking this off. Sam hasn't checked into the draft yet. Looks like Derek Tate hasn't checked in. Fantasy Nav, Kickman. Come on, people. I've tagged them all privately. We'll see if they show up.
Oh, wow.
But, if you're going to auto draft, I guess the first pick is okay, right?
No, you can't auto draft the first pick. We're professionals here. We need to be here. This is the draft. We have to show how it's got to be done. No, seriously, though, you can't auto draft the first pick. Come on, Sam.
All right. She just texted me. She's working on it.
Okay, nice.
She's working on it.
So are you buying what he's saying as far as we all know Sam loved Naji coming out in the draft last year. We know she's a Steelers fan, but are we buying that Sam goes with Naji with the first pick in the draft?
No way. No way. For me, it's clear, man. It's Jonathan Taylor. You got to get the guy that's going to get 25 touches minimum a game every game.
It has to be. And I know Cooper Kupp, you're talking PPR league, the type of value. Love Cooper Kupp. Loved him when he came out in the draft. Not surprised by success one bit. That being said, when you have the Matt Stafford injury there, you bring on Allen Robinson, and I think we're undervaluing Allen Robinson even to this point, because Allen Robinson, who has he played with his entire career? Blake Bortles. He's played with Mitch Trubisky, and then Justin Fields, who I think is going to turn out to be a really good NFL quarterback, but he was a rookie last year with no O-line. Montgomery went down with an injury for a period of time. Allen Robinson, I would rather buy low on Allen Robinson than pay the price that it's going to take to get Cooper Kupp. Then you look at those other running backs.
Why you got to say this? I don't know if you can see heat in the green room, but you are just riling him up talking about his Rams right now. All right, Jason, it is time to start the draft. I'm going to go ahead and click start on this draft, and Sam has joined us, so she is on the road. She's not going to be live with us, but she's here. So we're going to go ahead and kick this draft off and let it go. So normally I like to do 3 wide receiver leagues. Personally, we set this at 2 with only a 5 bench just to kind of help move this along as we're doing this live, So Jonathan Taylor, number 1 overall, no surprise. Derrick Henry, he was true to his word and took Derrick Henry. What are your feelings on Derrick Henry this year?
I just, I touched on it a little bit earlier. I think when you have a running back that goes to that 400 plus touch in the season, and Derrick Henry, when you count in the playoffs as well, back-to-back season, was flirting or either surpassed that 400 plus touches. We started to see that body break down last year, and before he even started to break down, I talked about in the preseason how I expected Derrick Henry's body to break down rather sooner than later. Coming back this year, yes, he is a freak of nature. You hope that he bounces back, but as humans, we do not get healthier as we get older. And so I think just like here in Houston, when Arian Foster finally started to break down, it was time to sell high on him.
Yeah, I mean, I still think he's a first-round pick. I still think he's going to be the man until proven wrong. I haven't drafted early enough to grab him, so I probably am not going to have any shares of him at all. The clock is winding a little bit on our friend Derek Tate of the Fantasy Debate with Sam and Tate. He actually informed me that he is on the road moving, I believe, to the Washington, D.C. area. So be safe traveling, and hopefully you set a queue of people you like, and maybe he'll make some live picks. But here he goes. Got about 7 seconds from his pick, and then Cam, reigning champion at number 4. We'll see where he goes. All right, Christian McCaffrey taken with an auto draft. Where do you think Cam's going here?
Well, before that, let's rehash these first three. As you said, sure. Jonathan Taylor to Sam, Derrick Henry to Heat, Christian McCaffrey. I don't think anything's surprised anyone. Obviously, my opinion's probably a little bit screwed from the consensus on Henry and McCaffrey. But talking about from my perspective and what I like to look for in running backs, to me, I'm happy with the way the board's fallen with Henry and McCaffrey going off. So a couple other backs that I like can slide a little bit later.
Yeah, I don't mind McCaffrey at the number 3, to be honest. I mean, if you look at his injury history, it's not like a repeating nagging industry. The one that took him out last year was a rolled up ankle. That was a freak accident, could have happened to anybody. So I think he may have a little bit of a bum rap as injury prone, but we'll see what happens this year.
Every running back that's ever gone over 400 plus touches in the season has broken down pretty soon thereafter. And these aren't my stats. I'm just telling you what history says. When McCaffrey went over 400 plus touches, I said, watch out, he broke down. When Derrick Henry went over 400 plus touches, watch out, he broke down. When Le'Veon Bell went 400 plus touches, same thing. So not to beat a dead horse there, but yeah, you hope that they both stay healthy, especially if you're a fantasy football fan or just a football fan in general.
Yeah, and there goes Naji Harris, probably the next candidate outside of maybe Jonathan Taylor that is going to hit 400 touches. He was the number 1 in snaps last year on the offense. It was Naji Harris.
He absolutely was. And, I mean, to his credit, you've got a Big Ben basically in a wheelchair. Offensive line with some youngsters, inexperienced, wasn't great chemistry, wasn't a lot of talent. And so for what Naji did, he surpassed my expectations for him clearly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think he's going to be focal point of that offense. I think Mitch Trubisky gives him a little bit of extra where you still think you have to cover Mitch? Think he's going to run enough?
I think they've tried to mold him enough to this point to try to be a pocket passer, but he has that mobility on his side. So it'll be interesting to see. But I want to talk about this pick coming in from Kickman. Jamar Chase. I love Jamar Chase this year. Jamar Chase, it wasn't a fluke what happened in his rookie season. This kid is like when Calvin Johnson comes out in the draft, everybody says, no, that's a wide receiver that you take in the top 3. I mean, that's the type of talent. I'm not talking about where he got selected or not. I'm just talking about that's the type of talent. The reason that kid possibly could have been number 1 overall pick if he comes back and plays the last year at LSU instead of sitting out. And that gives you some cause for concern with recent history. But I know Danger's on the clock. I wanted to talk about that because I love the pick from Kickman there. First round, 8th pick overall, Jamar Chase. I think he's going to love that return on investment. And then Ted follows up right behind him with Dalvin Cook. Another pick I love as well.
I like it. All right. Well, I was just buying time because I know you got to pick back to back after I'm done. And I'm not going to go the 0 running back crap anymore.
Oh, see, listen to you.
I'm done with it.
This is why I can't do the show. You can't take Joe Mixon in front of me. You can't start the show and say 0 running back, 0 running back. Man, I'm moving on. Staying in the same state, but moving on.
Mr. Chubb.
Oh, so we could go get that second running back because how thin they are. There's so many wide receivers you can come back with. You've got guys like their DeAndre Swift. Hard Knocks might have you feeling some type of way for him. Aaron Jones, that top guy, they only got 2 running backs on the active roster, if I remember. So if Aaron Rodgers is always going to move the offense, Aaron Jones could eat there on the ground. But Javonte Williams is really intriguing to me, and this might be a reach to some people, but I'm going to go Javonte Williams.
Well, we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about this for just a quick second. I'll go ahead and take my pick here so we can just move on. But I'm going to go take that other guy you were talking about, take Aaron Jones. This has been a back and forth in our Discord a little bit, and Chris Emmerich and I got in a little argument here or there, talking about how much I love Aaron Jones this year, because I think without Devontae Adams that they may have to use him. You may see Jones out there with A.J. Dillon quite a bit, and see one of them running out to the flat. You might see him line up in the slot. I like him a lot, but, it's going to be a 60-40. And then, I said I don't like Javonte Williams as much because Melvin Gordon's still there, and it's going to be a 60-40. And he said, how can you like Aaron Jones in the 60-40, but not Javonte Williams in a 60-40? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. But
I want to agree with Emmerich on this side. Well, obviously you can tell, I guess the proof's in the pudding with me going Javonte Williams over Aaron Jones there. And again, before the selection, I said that may surprise some people. But for me, Javonte Williams, Russell Wilson, before last year's injury, had never missed a start since his rookie season as a 3rd-round pick. And now he goes to Denver where, we know the last several years, probably last half decade, Russell Wilson was running for his life as the Seahawks refused to give him a complete offensive line. Well, now he goes to Denver. You got Cortland Sutton. You got Jerry Judy. You just run through the weapon there. You mentioned Javonte Williams also having Melvin Gordon in the background. Melvin's getting a little bit long in the tooth, and I don't think he's the rusher that Javonte Williams is. And I think Javonte is more than a 60-40 type of back. I think he's probably more closer to 70-30. And because the Packers only kept 2 backs in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, I do think that time split is going to be closer to 60-40 because you don't want either one of those guys to break down. And I do want to throw in this nugget, you can promote guys from the practice squad, and they do have guys, running backs on their practice squad. You can promote them up to 3 games in the regular season without them counting the 53-man roster. That being said, though, I just feel like the Jones-Dillon split's going to be a little heavier.
I dig it. All right. Well, let's bring on one more guest here that just logged in. I don't know if he's ready for us, but I'm ready for him. Ted here, who has been pretty much the man in charge of the background of drroto.com. We appreciate all the work he has been doing. Ted, you're live with us now. You started out with Delvin Cook and Alvin Kamara, so you're going the deep veterans.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Dynasty, so I don't have any old guys, so I wanted to pivot and get some old guys.
Old guys. Watch it, young man. Watch it, young man. I like it, man. You are in New York, are you not?
Yes.
So what do you think of Barkley? I'm a huge fan of Barkley this year. I actually was kind of going between him and Jones and went with Jones, and then Barkley went right after me. What's your thoughts on Barkley?
I really like Barkley. I was going to take him if he was there instead of Kamara. So I had to settle for Kamara with Barkley gone. But
isn't that a funny statement coming out of your mouth? You had to settle for Alvin Kamara?
Yeah, I'm happy to settle for Alvin Kamara, I think. But I was definitely going Barkley. I think a year removed from the injury, he'll be ready to go and should be back where he was his rookie year, hopefully.
All right.
Now with Drew Brees not there, Ted, you think Alvin Kamara is just going to is he going to be able to pick up and have that type production? Do you also, you got the 1st-round pick, Chris Olave in the passing game, and also Michael Thomas coming back as well. Do they eat into the production at all, or do you feel like this is going to be similar type of offense where Winston is checking it down to Kamara in the similar blueprint to what Drew Brees did for so many years?
Yeah, I think I liked what Kamara did with Winston last year. Like the few games, I forget the split exactly, but the few games they played together worked pretty well, I think. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. And then the one thing I'm more worried about is the lack of Sean Payton. I'm interested to see how that goes for them.
Nice.
Well, thanks, Ted, for joining us, and stick around. We'll bring you back in a little bit.
I love the Thanks for popping on with us, Ted. We'll check back in with you later. As Danger said, Danger, I love the color coordination on these fantasy boards because it kind of just really helps that strategy stick out or how the boards are falling here. Is anybody surprising you yet through the first 2 rounds?
Not particularly. I am a little shocked that Swift dropped all the way to the middle of the second round. You're right. I think that HBO hype on him has got him going. I live near Detroit, and I am a notorious Lions hater, so my opinion on him isn't probably great. But I am a little shocked that Barkley and Kamara went in front of him. Other than that first round I think was exactly as I predicted it. I think I couldn't have really seen it gone any different.
So, can you explain to us the translation from 0 running back to 2 running backs in your first 2 picks?
I hated how the 2 drafts I did 0 running back looked, so I decided to not do that again. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, it's truly thin. I like doubling down there. But you see Coach White, you see Kickman, they zigged where everybody else was zagging. They doubled down on the wide receiver. Now we see Coach White come back in the 3rd round and Kickman's on the clock and he goes with James Conner there. What do you think about the value in Kickman as well? Really hate the pick from Kickman because I was hoping ETN would fall to me here. I was going to go a 3rd running back with ETN because I think he gets, with all the noise that came out of Jacksonville's camp last year, that Urban Meyer's going to play him in the slot. It devalued who Travis Etienne is. This guy's a running back that can catch like a receiver and can run sharp routes, has great contact balance. Great pick by Kickman. And also when you talk about the production Connor put up, for you to go 2 wide receivers and zig where everyone else is zagging and then come back and get James Conner, the production he had last year, and then Travis Etienne, I think it staples, really builds that foundation piece at running back for their strategy going 2 wide receivers to start.
Yep, and we can go ahead and talk about Cam's draft. It looks oddly familiar to last year's draft. I do believe that he took Kelsey about there and then came back with Mahomes. He is the reigning champ. We gave him some shit last year. We really did. We gave Heat some shit last year. What happened? The 2 of them played for the damn championship.
Well, here's the thing that sticks out about Cam. Yes, it's not a traditional draft where you're going to fade tight ends or quarterbacks and all that. But if you're going to label this draft, you would call it a Cam's draft. You would call it a premier talent draft. Cooper Kupp, top receiver. Patrick Mahomes. Now, yeah, you can argue if you like someone else better, but let's just sake of argument say arguably top quarterback. And we'll see what happens without Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce, possibly top tight end there as well. And then you've got that stack with Mahomes and Kelce's that with Tyreek gone. I mean, that's it. That's his number one. He's got it at the tight end position. So fading running back, going 0 running back strategy here and going with premier talent at different positions. Like you said, he had untraditional last year, turned into a championship.
Dig it. I'm on the clock right now. I'm skimming through these players here, kind of seeing where I want to fall. I think I'm going to go ahead and go with Deontay Johnson. He's still the number 1 target there. I think Pickett eventually takes over, and they are just going to rock the second half of this season.
I'm interested. There's still some running backs with value there. And I could take that to hurt the people with the 0 running back strategy. I'm tempted doing that because I'm just a dick, I guess. But Mike Evans, man. I love Mike Evans with Tom Brady. No Rob Gronkowski back this year. Yes, I know the O-line is banged up, but it's Mike Evans. Mike Evans catches 8 touchdowns before he gets out the bed in the morning. Here, you've got some top prospects still available there at different positions. Again, I'm tempted to go ahead and thief that running back position. I may talk myself into it. Oh, what are you going to do, Jason? What are you going to do? Well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I did it. No, I know Bears offensive line, you don't want a running back behind that offensive line. But I've got Nick Chubb, I got Javonte Williams, and now I've got David Montgomery. I'm in a position of strength in a league where running back, well, fantasy leagues and the way it's set up with PPR, where running backs are a thin position. So now I'm at a position of strength, and I think I can replace that wide receiver talent later.
Not bad either. And we only start 2 wide receivers in this league. So that does change the dynamic.
Fair enough.
Definitely does. I'm going to come back. I'm going to take Cortland Sutton. I'm going to hope that they let Russ cook. What do you think about the Denver offense? I think Wilson's being drafted a little high, but I mean, he's still a top 10 quarterback. It's probably going to be a top, 7 or 8 offense, possibly, if it all clicks.
Yeah, this is a big year for Jerry Judy. I actually like Judy more than Sutton, but I think both of these guys, I mean, it's like Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Both guys are going to get fed. So you might have Judy eat 1 week with 3 touchdowns, and you might have Sutton come back the next 2 weeks with 2 touchdowns in each of those games. So I think it's fairly close. You can't go wrong with either one. And when Russ Wilson's the quarterback, has that new contract in Denver. I used to live in Denver. It's freaking awesome. The weather's amazing. I love Denver. So yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with either ways, Sutton or Judy.
All right, let's see if we can get Bryce Shadday in here, one of our other interns at drroto.com, and have him talk about his first 3 picks as he's leading up to another. Bryce, are you with us this time?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Oh, I hear you just fine. So you kicked it off with Austin Eckler, who I absolutely love. Leonard Fournette was the guy in the list there. I am really concerned about their offensive line, but there's nobody else really there outside of the rookie. And then Pittman, I think Pittman's solid. I'm a firm believer in Matt Ryan having a renaissance year.
Yeah, with Lenny, I'm not too concerned about that.
And you're on the clock, Bryce. Sorry.
Looks like I'm up. Yeah, no, you're good. No, you're fine. You're fine. You brought me in at the right time, apparently. I'm gonna go with Amon-Ra here. Oh, go ahead.
No, I said I like it. I mean, there's some people that I think probably got picked up a little bit too much with the Hard Knocks this year and the hype of it. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's stock was helped by it. When you see him without a shirt, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a monster. And his hands. But I like it. I mean, with Jared Goff, I mean, high PPR, high striking offense. I don't think it's a reach at all. I think it's a quality pick in the PPR.
Yeah, I loved him. Obviously, I'm a Hard Knocks watcher as well, but I figured he was going to be number 1 coming out for Jared Goff this season. But back to Fournette. Fournette got a lot of looks out of the backfield in the pass game as well, so that's what I like there. And it seems like he might be a clearer cut number 1, not the clear cut, but a clearer cut number 1 based off of what we've seen that they've done this offseason. And then I'm from Indianapolis. I got to rep my boy Michael Pittman. Plus, I think he's the number 1 option by far and away on this offense. And Matt Ryan targets his wide receiver 1 more than any other quarterback in the league. So I'm going to go with my guy Pitt.
Excellent point on Michael Pittman. I love Pittman coming out in the draft. Loved him in Indianapolis. You threw in a great nugget there with the Matt Ryan and his number 1 wide receiver. I expect big thing. I love the Alec Pierce. I wanted to see Houston select him this year. Loved Alec Pierce coming out. Loved Paris Campbell. They use 2nd-round picks on all 3 of their top 3 receivers. And the only thing is if Paris Campbell can stay healthy, I like the entire trio. But yes, Pittman's the unquestionable number 1 guy there and will be fed by Matt Ryan.
I like it. Well, I appreciate Bryce coming on. I took him off the feed so he could concentrate on his next pick coming up. I see your boy Dameon Pierce picked up by Derek Tate in the 5th round. So I've done 3 full real drafts so far. This is the 3rd one. I've got a whole bunch coming up in the next few days still. And let me tell you, Pierce went round 7 in my first one, round 6 in the one I did earlier today, and now round 5 here. Are we getting to the point where it's too high, or you still like him there? Now let's give the listeners a quantified statement that you are the host and creator of the Houston Football Show, and you might be hyping Pierce more than the average man.
No, this is great value. He went running back with Christian McCaffrey. If McCaffrey stays healthy, I mean, you're possibly talking about a number 1 type fantasy running back overall. Then he goes Debo. He goes away from running back. Debo Samuel, Keenan Allen, Josh Allen goes ahead and gets the quarterback that he wants. And then he still gets another starter. Dameon Pierce, without question, is the number 1 running back. The only question, and the Texans are going to be run heavy this year. The only question is who's the number 2? Rex Burkhead, Dare, Royce Freeman, Marlon Mack off the practice squad. So there's really not a number 2, and I think it's a position they need to add to. The only question is how much do they use Dameon Pierce? They call, oh gosh, Kickman just took Allen Robinson. Great pick there. But no, I love the Dameon Pierce pick there, especially need another starting running back, to find him there in the 5th round. I think that's great value there for Derek.
Absolutely like it. All right, let's take a look at Sam's team while we're getting ready to take our picks. She started off with Taylor, got back to Mr. Hill. We've got AJ Brown. So I have some questions here for you. We got 2 big-time wide receivers switching teams with Tyreek Hill and AJ Brown. What are your thoughts on those guys in their new locations?
Tyreek Hill, I'm curious because I want to see Tua put it all together, but it was a lot of throwing underneath to Jalen Waddle. Oh, another great pick with Ted, with Brandon Cooks. He'll be fed as the number 1 in Houston this year. But yeah, for me, sorry, that knocked me completely off track. Ted
Well,
they went Judy, Allen Robinson, and Brandon Cooks right there in the order. I mean, they gutted me. I needed my second wide receiver.
Are they listening to us?
I doubt it. These are pretty smart guys, so I think they've got their own strategy. They see the value there, but they gutted me with that. Judy, Allen Robinson, and Brandon Cooks, 3 great picks there in mid to late 5th round. Number 2 receiver for Ted, and fantasy nav for Kickman, the 3rd wide receiver, and he didn't go to running back to the 3rd and then 4th round. Got 2 young guys that have tremendous upside, so that could pay off for him. Now, Danger's up on the clock, so we'll let Danger focus here whenever you're ready. Let us know what you're thinking. You got 2 receivers, 2 running backs.
I'm going to go back to the receiver well here. I really like Juju Smith-Schuster. I've picked him up in both the other leagues that I have. I think people have kind of forgotten that he's only 25 years old. And he was pretty disgruntled in Pittsburgh and playing with a noodle arm Ben Roethlisberger. Now, you put him on KC, one of the most dangerous offenses in the league. You get him rejuvenated. You've got Tyreek Hill gone. You've got Kelsey drawing coverage. I think Juju is lined up for a great season. To be able to get him at the back end of the 11th round just seems too good for me. Or the back end of the 5th round, seemed too good for me.
Yeah, I like Juju PPR. Obviously, we bring that back up again because, Pat Mahomes, Tyreek Hill's gone. He does have that security blanket of Travis Kelce at the tight end position. But at that wide receiver spot, who's going to be that security blanket? And that's what Juju Smith-Schuster does just as well as anybody in the league. So he'll get fed early and often. And you've got a couple guys like that. Deontay Johnson, one of the guys that's typically week in, week out, one of the highest in targets. Juju Smith-Schuster's a heavy target guy that came from playing with Deontay Johnson, so his shares could go up more. And then Cameron Sutton, he's possibly the 1 or 1A, 1B there in Denver with Russell Wilson. Now, here for me, I'm going with Adam Thielen. This is a guy I think is tremendously undervalued. They're not under Zimmer anymore. It's not going to be, we got to run the ball. And even when they were doing that, Adam Thielen could get you double-digit touchdowns. I mean, just look at his most recent years. Now, I probably should go wide receiver here again as it starts to thin out, and there's some guys I really like there. But again, I'm going to just hammer down on the weakness, which is running backs, and take Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, I like it. I actually considered him where I took Juju, but I'm just all aboard the Juju train, man. So I just am. So I'm going to go ahead and make a peek, but I want to get back to talking about Tyreek Hill and AJ Brown, 2 big name guys that switch teams, new quarterbacks. And we just started talking about that. And then we had the draft. So let's get back to that.
Yeah, so with and you're still on the clock again after Juju Smith-Schuster. Danger has 3 wide receivers we just talked about, went back-to-back running backs with a 0 RB strategy to start. And me and Danger's got a good relationship. He knows I'm going to jab him quite a bit, and he's going to give it just as good as he takes it. Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones at the running back position. Does he go back running back? Does he continue to add value at that wide receiver position, or do we see him go outside of those 2 valued positions?
That is a good question.
Still
yeah,
deciding.
I think I'm just going to go ahead and take Chris Godwin. I don't need him to start. I've got 2 wide receivers starting. I got a flex spot. I know he's banged up a little bit, but too good a value to let drop below the 6th round.
Yeah, no, I like it. So, I mean, you got Chris Godwin, Tom Brady. We talked about it, so I won't keep rehashing it. The offensive line issues there are a question for Tampa Bay, but Tom Brady can get rid of the ball. He's had O-line issues throughout his 50-year career in the NFL. And so he knows how to get rid of the ball early. And as long as Chris Godwin, that's his one bugaboo, is that he keeps getting that injury bug, but he typically plays, I don't know, right off, I'm guessing 10 plus, 12 plus games a year. And when he's out there, he's starting caliber. He's going to be 1B or Robin to Mike Evans Batman there. And so, the production is going to be there. And you get him here in the 6th round, a starting wide receiver with Tom Brady. I mean, I think it's fair value, hard to pass.
Couldn't agree more. Actually, you know what? I keep asking you about these guys, but I'm just kind of looking through the list here. We got, if you start over in our left corner, right? We got Tyreek Hill, new team, new quarterback. AJ Brown, new team, new quarterback. Metcalf to the right of there, new quarterback. Let's see, keep going through here. We got Pittman, new quarterback. We got McLaren, new quarterback. Judy, new quarterback. Robinson, new team, new quarterback. Devontae Adams, new team, new quarterback. There's just been so much movement this year in the quarterback and wide receiver talent.
Well, yeah, I think those contracts have a lot to do with it, what they're paying out to wide receivers in the NFL now. Those contracts, you're looking for value where other, trash to treasure, I guess, where others don't value a guy as much, and then they go on to greener pastures. They look at it as a value signing. The team that he departs, maybe they go a cheaper route, or maybe they go with someone else they value more than someone else. So that's where the league is now. The old adage, NFL not for long. And now, especially at the skill position with the money that's being paid, quarterbacks, it's not shocking anymore to realize quarterbacks are making $45-50 million per year to play a 17-game season.
Right. All right, well, we're going to bring Heat Override back in again here and talk to him as we're getting ready for another pick here. Heat, you, of course, already went off with Henry and Elliott. We talked about that, but you went Cam Akers. Now, you are a huge Rams fan. We gave you some hell last year. You beat me to get to the championship, so I'm going to lay off this year. I love Cam Akers. I absolutely adore him. I'm really worried about that injury from last year. You just don't see many guys come back from that. I have been targeting Darrell Henderson kind of later in the draft, thinking I'm going to get a guy who's going to be 1B and maybe 1 to himself when Cam gets re-injured. You follow the Rams more than anybody I've ever met. Talk to me about Cam Akers and why you are okay with him as your 3rd overall pick.
It's a make or break year. If Cam Akers can't get it done this year, overcome the injury, then the Rams are going to move on. The Rams and Sean McVay have proved that if you can't do it for them at running back and be consistent and stay healthy, it's bye-bye for you. And I didn't want to go with Cam Akers, but my honest play was to see if Leonard Fournette fell. And then I was going to try and do the Zeke after the Fournette run. So, thank you for that steal. And not you, but
yeah, Bryce.
And so
darn interns getting in the way all the time.
But that's okay. They gotta make a statement. What better way to make a statement than to take my guy? But that's anyway, right. Go back to it. So Cam Akers seemed to get the ball a lot, and they started running him, and that is gonna open up for the Rams this year. But I gotta say something, man. I love that Jason's in this draft. Just tomahawking running backs with me because it's changing everybody's style. Right now, you saw a couple quarterbacks go, and that's what that leads to, because when you start taking the running backs and people go and they start seeing the backups like Kareem Hunt and other people that are there, they start going for best of position. They're like, okay, well, we're going to go for a quarterback, right? But they're leaving other players out there that are superstars that aren't picked yet, that are going to be on my team in the next pick. And that's what opens up. Drafting is more than just getting what you want. It's also about putting everybody else in that league in a very uncomfortable situation. And that's what I like to do. And apparently Jason liked to do it too. And I'm not out of everybody that came through and did it, he's got 3 running backs. I did 3 from the go because I want my bell cows. I want my touchdowns. I want that ground game. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Boom. There he is.
All right, so we see Heat came back. You started off with Derrick Henry, then you went running back Zeke Elliott, Cam Akers as well. Followed that up with DK Metcalf, Lamar Jackson, Michael Thomas. I want to ask you, what went into drafting 3 straight running backs to begin with? I know you talked a little bit about kind of blocking some of the the competitors in the league as well at that position. But also, are you thinking about possible injuries? Like, go ahead, here's a little extra insurance that can step up in that situation. I'm still sitting with Zeke and Cam Akers, and I can get that receiver depth later, like Metcalf and Michael Thomas.
Exactly. Because in this league with a full point PPR, it makes regular people kind of okay. So when you scroll down and you see someone like Alan Lazard or even Tyler Lockett, even though I got the Deeks, that right there just tells me that they're going to get their balls, they're going to get their plays, they're going to get their points. So I don't need to value them right now. So the players that I need to value, at least in my opinion, and that's I go balls to the wall on this, is the team that's going to make you, break you, get you to the playoffs, and then finish like this next pick. That's what it's all about, because it doesn't matter. I expect to be in the playoffs. If I miss the playoffs, I miss the playoffs. But when I get to the playoffs, if these people stay healthy, which of course was my problem last year when I took Jackson, and why I stayed away from Christian McCaffrey this year. Look, 2 years of injuries with that guy, I'm sorry, I'm out. I can't do it. And he's one of those little running backs that catches, like you were bringing up with the 400 plus guys and getting their things. I did go against that with Derrick Henry, but I went against that because when Derrick Henry's in that backfield, the Titans don't care. They're just going to give him the ball. Just look at how much volume he had with the year off. He's definitely rested, and he's got a lot to prove because he's hearing about another running back in his division, and there's no way better to motivate somebody, a king, to attack than that. So that's my strategy and everything that's going in, because I thought about going tight end, but Dalton Schultz, that's like a couple rounds more for me. And then Zach Ertz, I'm cool without that. I can definitely get value at tight end that I don't need. But right now, what everything's going to happen is by the end of the year, when D-Hop comes back, he's going to get fed the ball. So if he comes back, week 7, he's ready, he's back, and he catches 10, 12 touchdowns for that rest of the year, those touchdowns are mine. It's not a whole year. I just need that at that point of the season, because that will catapult anybody to a championship.
All right. Well, thank you, Heat. And we are moving along here. And I really like we were talking about blocking, right? Taking these players, making it difficult choices. And I noticed as I'm looking through these draft boards, you were the first guy to close out 4 running backs. I was the first guy to close out 4 wide receivers. I feel like we're making tough decisions on these people in front of and behind us.
Yeah, I mean, depending on where you're at and how the board shakes out in front of you, I mean, it's definitely going to shake out your strategy. Are you going to have to reach for running back later? Are you going to have to reach for wide receiver later? There's always a cause and effect. And so whatever happens before and after you and all that, your strategy, no matter what you come into the draft with. I don't know if y'all have been watching the Mike Tyson thing on Hulu. I enjoy boxing quite a bit. So I've been watching that. What's Mike Tyson always say, everybody has a plan until they're punched in the face. Well, that's
right.
Kind of like having this fantasy draft strategy. Everybody came into this draft probably with a strategy, I would imagine. And then things happen out of the ordinary. Somebody's strategy runs counterproductive to your strategy, and you have to audible there live on the go and make calculated decisions. That's the beauty of it. That's the fun of it.
Absolutely. All right, we got a couple of picks coming up here. Now, here's the question, Jason. Do I try to get in your head and figure out which wide receiver you're thinking about right now and take them in front of you?
I hope so. I like when people try to get inside my head, because I mean, I don't even know what's going on in there half the time. So if it's better if they're thinking about you and your strategy than their own, because then you can get them to misstep.
It's probably true. And I pay little attention to what's going on most of the time. So, I'm just going to keep going down through my thought process. I've got 4 wide receivers. I've got 2 running backs. I'm thinking. Where do I go? I'm going to go one more wide receiver, my friend. I'm going to go ahead and take Alan Lazard. He's at least right now the number one target in Green Bay, and it never hurts to have Aaron Rodgers number one on your roster.
Yeah, I completely understand that. You talked on it a little bit about me needing to go wide receiver again. We're down in here in the 7th round. I'm too deep. So this would be my third guy, one injury away from this being a starter. And I mean, I'm more than comfortable going back to, to my roots. To Clemson with Hunter Renfrow here. We talk about PPR league. This guy, that offense with Josh McDaniels, Las Vegas Raider, that entire division is sick. It's going to be week after week battle. But that offense for the Raiders, I don't care if they win or lose. I just know that offense is going to be high octane. They're 5 deep at running backs. You got Darren Waller and Devontae Adams, that defenses have to worry about. And they're like, oh, well, what about this Hunter Renfrow kid? Well, he's killing you in and out every single down, eating up PPR points. Now here, I've got my third receiver. I've got 4 running backs. I could go running back here again, and a thought was given to that, but I really like Russell Wilson this year. Typically don't go quarterback this early, but I'm going to go Russell Wilson.
I can see that, man. I was going to consider Wilson if you didn't take him simply because I've got Sutton up there and I'd like to match him up. Yeah, what I was really hoping is that you would pick one of the New England running backs and that you'd make my decision easy for me because I wanted the one that you weren't going to take. And I just really felt like you're going to take one of those guys. So now I'm kind of stuck here. We talked about a little pregame about the decision between Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris. I'm going to go ahead and take Stevenson. I know Harris probably sees the beginning of the year a little bit more action and a little bit more fantasy points, but I think by the end of the year when I need somebody there, it's going to be Stevenson.
Your guy Emmerich reminded me. I know for Chris Emmerich, those who are familiar with drroto.com and not only everything we do over there on the fantasy football and fantasy baseball and everything else, but Emmerich's really locked in on esports. And man, analytically, the dude is a genius. And your guy Emmerich, said something that stuck out to me last year because he does so well successful in big DFS leagues. And one of the things he told me makes me think about this New England bag situation. Now, not so much seasonally, but, if you're talking DFS, he says most people are scared to make that decision on Ramondre, and he's not talking about this specifically, but a situation like Ramondre Stevenson or Damian Harris. You said, so again, and I call it zig where they zag, whatever you want to call it, he goes into the head of those things. People are afraid to bet big money on picking what most people are looking at as a coin toss, and he makes a decision on it. That's something stuck with me. And I feel like that's what you're doing. You're making that decision, a commitment where these guys, Ramondre and Damian, could slide in drafts unless you see a guy that you personally like or you have inside information you feel is going to give you that leg up, and then you move on them, and then that's great value. For Ramondre Stevenson is the lead dog in that offense this year, then that's great value.
Okay, we got a comment here from a watcher, Ian, saying, who is this Ted guy? He knows what's up. Well, let's go ahead and bring Ted in and let Ted answer that. See if Ted's listening. I know that he is in our back green room here. Let's see if he's here. Ted, are you there?
Yes.
You got a fan. Is Ian Roseveare your brother or first cousin?
He said brother or first cousin.
No, but I do know him. So he's been making fun of my picks as we go along, actually. So I think he's being sarcastic.
Nice. Nice. That is always welcome here at drroto.com. Invite all your friends, families, loved ones, everyone to come on and mock your picks. It just makes it all the greater for us.
It really does. Ted, are you happy with your team, or do you feel like you are playing defensive?
A little bit with the Herbert pick. I was scared that a quarterback run would happen because some went early and I didn't want to be stuck reaching for somebody else. So I feel like I reached a little there. But other than that, I feel like I've been just letting it come to me and been pretty happy with it.
I don't know, man. A lot of experts have Herbert ranked as their number 2 quarterback on the year, and you have got him as the 5th quarterback off the board. So yeah, I think it's a good value.
Thank you. I'll take it.
Yeah, no, Justin Herbert, I mean, they've got him stacked out there. Josh Palmer's a guy I didn't like coming out in the draft, and what I've seen from him this preseason, it's completely – there's nuggets you can take away from the preseason no matter what the masses said. And I think Josh Palmer, we talked about Amon-Ra St. Brown earlier and his breakout coming this year we expect. I think to maybe a little slighter level, I think you see the same thing in him as well. Oh, Sam with the George Pickens pick. Great.
Come on, you knew that was coming. You knew that was coming.
I know she's a Steelers fan, but great pick there. I was going to take him this round if he made it back down here. I think she's going to love the return she gets from that pick in the 9th round to kick it off. Ted, love what you're doing here. You want to walk us through your strategy real quick, where you're at and where you think you might be focused on going the rest of the way.
I mean, without giving too much away, I think I need wide receivers coming up just because I'm now 4 deep at running back. I've got my quarterback, I've got my tight end, but those 2 wide receivers, I like them, but they could definitely use some backup.
So let me ask you about the Brandon Cooks pick. Is this because I didn't send you a Christmas card last year?
Yes, I think that's exactly why. I was looking through my notes and I was like, didn't get a Christmas card from Jason. Brandon Cooks it is.
Fair enough. No, I love the pick there. The dude's going to be a target monster. They just picked up Tyler Johnson off of claims waivers. Or as I say, clavers, I guess. So they picked up Tyler Johnson. You got Nico Collins, who's coming on year 2. You hope what you've seen in the preseason meshes well. You hope Tyler Johnson catches on. After that, it's just Chris Moore, it's Philip Dorsett. But it's going to be just like last year where it's far and away Davis Mills trusting Brandon Cooks. And Brandon Cooks I know he's been traded a lot. That dude is elite. That dude still as a vet is sitting there at every practice, working his craft, his route running, everything. I love the Brandon Cooks pick there for Choms.
I like it. Well, thanks, Ted. We'll check back in after the draft with you. And thanks for coming on for a minute.
For sure.
We have to talk about thank you, Ted. Sorry to cut you off. We've got to talk about Heat in the 9th round with the shocker of the night, taking Michael Carter and passing on the Buffalo Bills defense.
Well, let's ask him. You are the guy who picks defense first in every draft I've ever seen you take. Talk Michael Carter.
All right. I was a huge Michael Carter fan last year. As you know, not only is he drafted on my dynasty team, he was drafted all around. The reason why I drafted him a lot last year is I knew that he was going to get some work. Breece Hall is going to get some of that work too, but it's the Jets. The Jets, they have no aspirations of going to the Super Bowl. They're not going to do anything. So what are they going to do? They're going to be behind, and Breece Hall is going to have to catch the ball, right? Oh, well, Michael Carter last year did pretty good in that area for them and also ran pretty well. So it doesn't matter if Michael Carter's getting in garbage time, 2nd or 3rd downs. This is a PPR league. I only need him to catch 2 or 3 balls, maybe have 3 targets the most each game to make that pick plausible. Because really, once DeAndre Hopkins comes back, he's out. But for now, he gives me a guy in a place with youth, a strong body, and going into a season where he's got a rookie that everybody's talking about more than him. That's a chip on your shoulder. That's an underdog. The underdogs always win. And that's why you bring the pain. Ooh, yeah.
Love it. Always a good time when Heat joins us, isn't it? All right.
Oh, yeah,
well, I've got one.
Heat's never lacking for energy. Fired up for the draft here. Is putting together a pretty good draft. You got a pick coming up here pretty soon.
I do.
You hammered those wide receivers. Too. Oh, nice.
We got one more guest here. I know that he's super busy watching the Notre Dame and watching the Ohio State game, but this is the college football guru, Coach Al White. You rocked week 0 with some takedowns, man. You're starting the year off strong again, and do you feel as strong about your fantasy team?
I absolutely do, and this is my first draft on Sleeper, and I clicked out of it, and I'm lost, gentlemen. I don't know how to get back to the draft.
Oh, man.
This is embarrassing, and I'm
need to let you go? Do we need to let you go?
No, I got it. We're figured out. We're good. We're good to go. All right. Now we can focus on the real stuff.
All right. Well, you got some time before we get back to your pick. So you started off strong with probably my two favorite wide receivers in the draft this year. Well, I mean, I'd love to have Chase and Jefferson. Don't get me wrong, but you're not going to get them both. This is the first time I've ever seen anybody pull Jefferson and Lamb. How excited were you about that?
Yeah, I was pretty stoked to get Jefferson at 6. I had 6 in 2 other drafts this season. It's kind of been my sweet spot, and he has not fallen in either of those drafts. So, I mean, I was pretty pumped, and then Lamb fell after Swift, so it was gonna be Swift for me. I was gonna go wide receiver, running back, but since Fantasy Nav went with Swift, I chose best on the board, which ended up being Lamb. I cannot be mad with number 1 in Dallas and number 1 in Minnesota.
No, not at all. And then you get to bring up two running backs who I actually like a lot. James Conner now sans Chase Edmonds, and Josh Jacob, who, you know, for the moment is a 3-down back, maybe. In Vegas, maybe.
Yeah, no, he is.
Solid starters.
So, I mean, Kenyon Drake obviously just got cut. And then if people believe that Zamir White is an NFL running back, you just didn't watch Georgia play football because he has zero vision. And we even saw it in the preseason. He missed a few goal line touchdowns. And Josh Jacobs has a firm hold on this backfield. And I think a lot of people are too low on Jacobs this year. I feel like that was a pretty safe pick in the 4th round.
I couldn't agree more. You know, I'm a big Kittle fan. Can Kittle stay healthy this year?
That's the thing, man. I just love him. Like, I just like his grit. So I was like, you know what? He's fallen to pick, you know, what was he? 5th round, pick 6. So I don't know. I just don't know what Trey Lance is going to do. That's right. The issue.
Hold on one second, Al. I got to yell at my co-host here.
No problem.
I got to yell at my co-host here, taking my guy he knew I was going to take with the next pick.
All right.
Get him.
Yes.
So I had to take the Tyler Algier, coach. We were talking about it before the show. He's like, yeah, go in and tell me. Let's talk about this stuff so I can snipe you on a couple picks. I'm like, oh, man, you're picking right in front of me. You can snipe me. And then we were also talking about Jarvis Landry a little bit. I said, let's go back to back while he's interviewing coach here and see if he can hold it together. And obviously I made him break. So that's worth the picks there myself. Coach, you're having a great draft. Sorry to cut you off there, but we had to get Danger to break.
It's all good, man. I love breaking Danger. It's pretty easy, actually.
It's really not hard. It really isn't. I don't even know where to go right now. I got 30 seconds left, and
So we're going to let Danger focus on that. Coach, so you hit Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, back-to-back wide receivers when a lot of people, including me and Danger, went running back. You went the opposite direction, going receiver. Then you came back. How do you feel like you've done on your depth with the next 3 running backs that you put together there in James Conner, Josh Jacobs, and then a few rounds later to get Cordero Patterson?
Yeah, so I'm on that wait and see approach on Cordero. You know, last year he kind of shocked everybody with the role he took on for Atlanta. And I don't think Algier is just going to come in and take over. It's just not who he is. He was a 3-down back for BYU, but they were just a run-first offense, and he was a product of high volume. And Atlanta's going to be playing from behind so often. They're going to need that kind of scat back role that Cordell Patterson offers. So, I mean, I really like it, honestly. Connor's a touchdown machine. Like I was telling Danger, I think Jacobs is a little bit underrated this season. And then Patterson has a safe floor. I mean, and with Gabriel Davis, like, my wide receivers are freaking stacked, man. I'm pretty stoked about this draft.
Yeah, Gabriel Davis put on about, I think the reports were like 10 pounds of muscle, maybe a little bit more than that.
Dude, where were you on that, Jason? I asked you specifically about that before the draft
you
started.
Did, and I dropped the ball. That's the Debo of this year. Who Debo put on 15 pounds of muscle last year. Gabriel Davis put on about 15 pounds of muscle this year. So, yeah, I should have told you that. Coach White, as always, right on top of there. And he knew it. And I like the pick there, especially in that offense where, you know, me and Danger were talking before the show that, I mean, I think the Bills, as talented as the AFC West is, I think the Buffalo Bills are the team for the AFC in the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, my goal for this draft was to either get players on competitive teams, which I did in Jefferson and Lamb.
Nice.
They might not win every game, but they're going to be at least in the game and throwing the ball. You got James Conner, who they're going to need to run it in. Vegas, you know, is going to be competing. San Francisco is going to be a good team. Buffalo, Atlanta, like I said, with Cordero. And then Treylon Burks is my Jamar Chase of this year. Like, you had to go for that one rookie who you think can do the breakout. and I truly believe it's Burks. So far, I'm like I said, guys, I'm really liking this draft, and I'm up right now. So just give me a second. You guys talk it out.
No worries. I asked Jason before we went live his thoughts on Treylon Burks, and he kind of said, well, I haven't watched the tape I should watch. So I'm glad to hear that from you, man. There is nobody I trust more in this world on college evaluation than you, and was really happy with helping cut that video you and Doc did, talking about all of the rookies. After you make this pick, I want to set you up and ask you, after you made all those videos on your top rookies, where has some opinions changed on those guys? I'll let you finish your pick here, and then you can answer those questions.
Yeah, and so here comes this pick right here. Another young guy comes in that he knows a lot about. So, Coach White, walk us through it. What was your thought process here?
So I actually bashed Sky Moore in my video. I'm gonna be honest. I said he's a one trick pony. He's kind of got one cut at the line. But at this late in the draft, I figured with how much hype Sky Moore was getting and how much everybody was so on him, he would be like a 7th or 8th round pick in most drafts. But he just keeps falling. So I have no issue taking him here because we don't really know what's going to play out in Kansas City, right? Like they got 3 wide receivers. We got Juju, we got MVS, and now we have Sky Moore and Travis Kelce. So one of those guys is going to go off, or one of them gets injured and the next guy's up. And that could end up being Sky Moore. And he could just be a product of opportunity, not necessarily a product of talent.
I dig it. Well, thank you, sir. How's the game coming? How's Notre Dame, Ohio State?
It is pretty great, actually. Notre Dame is up 10-7, and me growing up in South Bend, Indiana, I'm pretty stoked on it.
I dig it. All right, Coach. Well, I appreciate you coming on. If you want to check in after the teams are completed and give us your thoughts on your team and a few of the others, we'd love to have you. Thanks for joining us for a few.
Will do. Take care, guys.
All right, thanks for coming on, Coach. All right, so back on. So he followed up Sky Moore with Treylon Burks. Actually, I did evaluate Treylon Burks coming out. I wasn't high as the rest of the league was. Obviously him going in the middle of the first round to the Titans. I had a 3rd round grade on him. But as Coach White mentioned, he has an awesome opportunity there with just Robert Woods ahead of him. Very thin wide receiver core, so he's got a great opportunity. And if he turns out to be what the Titans and Coach White and everybody thinks he is, then he could have that monster season here in his rookie year.
Right.
Look, Sam. See, Sam is just somewhere right now being evil. George Pickens and then Khalil Herbert. Like, I don't think there's anybody in the world that loved Khalil Herbert more.
I was going to say that, man, before you brought it up. I was going to say, man, last year you were all over Herbert, and he showed a little bit of flash here and there, but he was not what we needed him to be because, shockingly, Montgomery had a hell of a year. Are you back on the Herbert train this year? Or
look. The 4 games Montgomery missed, I think it was 4 games, Herbert showed out. I mean, Herbert stepped up and played well. And so David Montgomery seems to get banged up, and we all know the running back position is a young man's game. Who's the backup running back? I think they only kept 3, and the backup's Khalil Herbert. So if Montgomery misses time again, and you put him with Justin Fields, and if that O-line can be a little bit better, if Fields can be a little bit better, and I know the wide receiver group doesn't look great, but if they can just be mediocre to good, if that's okay, and then he builds that chemistry down the seam with Cole Kmet, Khalil Herbert's got that opportunity. So I think Sam, he talked about building your roster as if you're going to be in the playoffs and for the longevity of the season with his DeAndre Hopkins pick and him coming off a suspension later in the year. Well, I think that's what we're seeing Sam and a lot of other people do as well, that she knows David Montgomery's injury history. She knows how bad that offensive line is or is expected to be. And if an injury hits Montgomery, next man's up Herbert, and he's already shown that he can produce fantasy value, especially in the PPR league, in that role.
Oh, absolutely. I believe it. So her next pick was MVS. He's a transplant from Green Bay, obviously down there. And this is interesting, right? We've got Patrick Mahomes, one of the most prolific quarterbacks in history if he keeps up this career, right? And we have his top 3 wide receivers off the board right now are 3 guys who weren't on the team last year. No love for Nicole Hardman. What do you think about Hardman in this? Is he worth a late round stab, or did they bring all these people in because they didn't have faith in Hardman?
Yeah, they're talking him up through the preseason. They talked him up. They're saying they like the growth they're seeing from him and the chemistry with Mahomes. But I'd rather go where we've seen the other drafters go this evening from drroto.com, whether it's Sam with MVS and someone took Juju Smith-Schuster earlier. Was
That
it
was me. That
Ted?
was me. That was
Oh,
me.
you took Juju. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
All
that's my
right, so
boy.
you with Juju, and so I mean, yeah, I think those I would rather have those guys than Nicole Hardman. So I would agree with the way it's played out to this point. And MVS, I mean, that's a guy that if you have to throw into your flex spot 1 week, or if you've got guys on bye weeks and all that, and he's in there, I mean, he might come out of that game with 2 touchdowns with the way Mahomes tosses and the way they move their ball.
I somehow have lost my screen share. What happened to my screen share?
Oh, you just selected Michael Vick.
Oh, no, I can see that screen. You ain't getting me there, boy. Woo. I'm going to go back. Yeah, put down. Not entire screen. Window. This one. Click. There, we're back now. Now we got the board back up. Yeah, so anyways, I zoned out a little bit there because I was freaking out because I couldn't see the screen. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing they drafted everyone else but Hardman Hardman's the only guy that's played with him, the only guy that's seen the scheme. I don't know. I don't know that I would draft any different. I don't know that I would take Hardman before any of those three, but I do think he's worth a flyer at the end of a draft.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have no issue with you rostering him on your team, Nicole Hardman. Like you said, he's there. He knows Pat Mahomes. They're familiar with him in the building, and he'll be a part of the equation for the Chiefs offense.
I'm just saying,
yeah.
if he has 3 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown that first week, he's going to be the first guy off the waiver wire.
Oh, you're absolutely right. But then he might go the next 3 weeks with 75 receiving yards. I mean, it just depends on how it builds. Oh, Kickman, great pick there. Kickman waited on his quarterbacks here, not going quarterback until the 10th round, grabbing Matt Stafford. With only 15 picks, I was debating if I'd go backup quarterback, especially with me going Russ a little bit earlier than usual. But if Derek Carr was going to be there at 11, 12, a couple picks from now, I was going to take him there. Love what Kickman did here. Did here. Wait until the 10th round to go quarterbacks. Grabs Matt Stafford. There is some issues. I think it was the shoulder that's giving him some issues and all that.
He has the elbow issue that pitchers get Tommy John for.
There you go.
It's a different motion with the football, so they say that they can manage it.
But not only did he wait to late to the 10th round to go quarterback, he goes Stafford. That's really great value there. And then to come back the next round and get Derek Carr that after Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins has already gone with the previous round. So after Kirk Cousins and now then there was Derek Carr. Then, to me, in my opinion, there's a tremendous fall off with Cousins and Carr being that cliff. You get behind those guys, you could roll the dice, and there could be some people that produce for you. As Danger's now up on the clock after his Tom Brady pick in the last round. But I think go ahead and getting Stafford in the 10th, and then doubling back down, getting your insurance with Derek Carr in the 11th, with Cousins already being gone and not really having that great of insurance outside of Carr after him. I think great job by Kickman with the way
I agree with you 100%. I don't normally go double QB. It doesn't matter unless I'm playing a 2 QB league or a super flex league. I just don't do it. But getting a guy like Stafford, who obviously could be finishing in the top 3 quarterback in fantasy, but has that elbow issue. If it flares up and he's out, he's in trouble. And we got Derek Carr, who some experts think he has the possibility to finish in the top 6 to 7 or 8 this year with adding Devontae Adams in. So where are you on Carr? You think that? You like that?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, if you remember last year, I was big on Carr and Cousins because they just do it every year. Now you bring in Devontae Adams. As long as Darren Waller's healthy, what Hunter Renfro's grown into, they're 5 deep at running back with Brandon Bolden coming over from New England with McDaniels. They drafted Zamir White. You've still got Josh Jacobs in the house. They brought in Amir Abdullah, and they got a 7th-round rookie also in Britton Bolden that all made the roster. So, expect that New England type backfield where all of those guys get touches. So it could be frustrating some weeks. But yeah, I think Derek.
You like how I asked you a question right when you got on the clock?
Oh yeah, but I'm clutch. I'm from Clutch City. This is what we do,
Well,
baby.
I'm gonna let you think for a minute. I took Michael Gallup. I like exactly what Heat was saying. Now, I don't take him quite as early as he did with Thomas and Hopkins. Both those guys are on my draft board in every league because if Thomas wants to play football, and that's my big problem with him, is he looked like he didn't want to play football. If he comes out of the gate once he gets healthy and just crushes a few games, because Winston slings the ball. He loves throwing the ball downfield. So if they hook up and get that chemistry, it could be amazing. Hopkins, I love. I mean, he's got all this time to stay healthy. And if Heat's doing well and doesn't need that help that he could have got there, taking a guy who's not suspended for 6 games, there's nothing better for DeAndre Hopkins than rest.
Yeah, I followed up. Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. We were talking a little bit before the show. You were talking about how you felt like Michael Gallup was undervalued. Grab him here at 11-11 makes great sense there. Then you followed back up with your 12th pick here and grab your first tight end, right?
Yes, yeah, David Njoku. I think he is being forgotten about, guys. Listen, we all thought Jimmy Grapes might go over to Cleveland, but he didn't. So they got Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett is thrown to the tight end more than any other quarterback in the last 10 years.
Right.
So,
right, no,
I'm all about waiting for it and going ahead. I really like Knox and Goddard, and I thought maybe one of them would get back to me after I picked Stevenson in the 8th round, and they didn't. And if I can't get somebody in that range, the Ertz, Knox, Goddard, just for sake of all, I'll wait for an Njoku.
Yeah, I went ahead and went into the 11th round after you made the Gallup pick with my back-to-back there at the turn. Went Rachaad White, the rookie for the Tampa Bay Bucks. That's the backup for Leonard Fournette. There's injuries on that offensive line we talked about numerous times throughout this broadcast. If Fournette gets banged up, he's getting a little bit older. If he starts to decline and play a little bit, if the interest isn't there, whatever it may be, Rachaad White's a guy that can step up in the passing game, can step up in the running game, and it's a guy that I definitely want to have shares on that you can get late, like we just picked up here in the 11th round, and then followed that up 12th round, first pick of the 12th round. I got Sammy Watkins. Now, Sammy Watkins, everybody knows his injury history, didn't live up the billing as the top 5 draft pick that he was, or what he was expected to be. Forget exactly where he went there in that draft. But always seems to get injured. But if you look back at his career, the guy, I think every year of his career has played like 8+ games, if I'm not mistaken. And so at least right out the gate, and I get him here in the 12th round, I get a guy that could be, I know everyone expects it to be Allen Lazard, but I get a guy that could have built the chemistry with Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, to be Aaron Rodgers number 1. I love the value there in the 12th round.
I mean, I don't know, man. I hear about Watkins, I hear about Dobbs, and I also hear about the long-standing history of Aaron Rodgers not respecting rookies.
Mm-hmm.
Does he have to this year because that wide receiver core is so thin?
He brought in Randall Cobb, and Randall Cobb's a shell of himself, what he used to be. But he'll start in that slot position because Aaron Rodgers trusts him and wants that vet and wants the routes to be pristine, exactly where he wants them, exactly when he wants them, every single time with no fall off. Well, he's got 3 vets. And those are his 3 starters, in my opinion. You've got Sammy Watkins, Allen Lazard, and Randall Cobb. Those top 2 guys, Sammy Watkins and Allen Lazard, are the guys that are going to be fed in that offense. They drafted Christian Watson. Love Christian Watson. They drafted Romeo Dobbs. I thought he was a steal at where they got him, and he should have been gone before that. And he's shown well in the preseason. But like you said, Aaron Rodgers came out in the preseason. One day he got on the rookies, frustrated about the drops, and Romeo Dobbs has been one of those with some of those drops as well. Christian Watson was behind with an injury coming out into camp. And then the next day, he praised Sammy Watkins for the chemistry and how it's really starting to click and the page he's on with him and all that. So I tend to go on the vet side of that. Dobbs and Christian Watson will get in on some of the work, but until Sammy gets injured, this is a guy that can give you value being a possible number 1 or number 2 receiver for Aaron Rodgers.
I dig it. So did it make you a little upset when the auto draft for Derek Tate took Pat Freiermuth? You're the last one without a tight end. Was that the guy you were counting on?
No, a Pat Fryermuth. That's great value there for him. I mean, he's the guy I would have definitely considered. I considered with the Sammy Watkins pick, but we've got 3 picks left. I'm going to need I mean, it's not rocket scientist to realize I'm going to need a tight end, a kicker, and a defense. And so, I've got multiple options. I've got audibles off of there, but if in all honesty, I considered Fryermuth with the Sammy Watkins pick, and I figured I'd wait and see if he'd be back there at the 12th. But I've got about 3 other tight ends I'd consider there. And with most people already having their tight ends by this point, I feel pretty confident I'll have one of those 3 fall to me.
I've actually, it worries me just because he might not make the first week, maybe. But Irv Smith, I think, is a really interesting guy. Now, you've got, did you pick up Thielen? You picked up Thielen. But if Thielen drops off at all, or they just need to not give him the target load that he has had in the past, Irv Smith could be that guy.
Yeah. Don't put that evil on me with Adam Thielen. I need my double digits touchdowns from Adam Thielen this year. No, Irv Smith's a guy that, I mean, this again, Mike Zimmer's gone. Kevin O'Connell's there. They're going to throw the ball more. They've got a stable of backs, 4 guys there. We talked about Alexander Madison could actually be moved this year via trade. And they've got 2 young guys behind Dalvin Cook. But at that wide receiver spot, they traded for Jalen Reagor to come in there to push KJ Osborne with Adam Thielen and also Justin Jefferson. So there's a lot of weapons there. But Irv Smith, with everybody focused on all those other weapons, Irv Smith could actually finally take that step forward that a lot of us thought we would see a little bit more from last year. And I love the pick of DJ Chark here. I was high on him last year with Trevor Lawrence being there, got injured, didn't get to see him. Really didn't get any limelight on Hard Knocks. But as far as the receivers they have and what his role will be, 13th round for DJ Chark, love the value there for Heat.
Yeah, you know what I have to say. I'm not a Lions fan, but he's very tall, and I like tall receivers. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. DJ Chark, he really, you know what? I doubled down on him quite a bit last year, and it just didn't work.
It blew up on me. I like Chark. It's just the injuries. You got to stay healthy. I mean, he showed you. When he's on the field what he can give you, but he has to stay healthy. And to this point, he hasn't been able to. We'll see if a change of scenery is good for him.
Now let's talk a little draft strategy.
All right.
Okay, so obviously the season starts in like 5 days, right? So it's not necessarily applicable here, but Sleeper software allows you to not draft a position if you don't want to. So when I do early season drafts, I have been known to not pick a defense or not pick a kicker or not pick either, and pick a couple of guys and just wait till, Wednesday night, drop the people I'm ready to drop, and then go grab my kicker and defense that I'm going to stream that week.
Yeah, I understand that. As far as in my home league, we did away with kickers years ago. I just kept on them and kept on them and kept on them. I'm like, listen, this is just the variables around extra points and field goals and misses and makes and the weather conditions and everything else. I just felt like it took away from, I mean, I know some people prefer the unexpected and the surprises in fantasy. I prefer that, hey, if you work your craft, you study it, you know the ins and out, then your team should be built strong and consistently win. Then we throw in silliness like kickers in fantasy, and it's like, oh, I got 18 points for my kicker. He kicked 6 field goals. You know what I mean? I'm like, what are we doing here? Your kicker outscored my quarterback.
But he scored points, Jason. You can't just ignore points scored unless you're going to roll. Are you going to roll it into defensive and special teams?
Listen, let me ask you.
Could you do that though? Could you do that?
Let me ask you
I just don't like. I get what
let
you're
me
saying,
ask you this, Danger.
And I want they're gone, but they're scoring points.
This is how I consider everything in life. This is my logic test, Danger. When all the billionaires and rich people leave us common folks back here on Earth and they leave us for Mars, right?
Yeah.
They're going to take celebrities and athletes and all that. Or let me ask you this. Are they taking the quarterbacks?
Yes.
Are they taking the kickers? Kickers' asses are stuck here with us, Danger.
I mean, back in the day, they'd have taken Vinatieri with them. They'd have taken Vinatieri with them. Justin
Tucker might be Mars worthy. No other kicker is going to Mars with them billionaires.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Man.
All right. Yeah. But they score points. All right. We're done here.
Right.
They
Do score. I've probably been burnt too much. A 1-point loss because a kicker on Monday night scored 20 points or something silly.
We got I've lost my whole train of thought. We got Swift taken. We've got Hawkinson taken. We've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. We now have Williams taken. When was the last time that many Lions went off the board?
How about 2 Lion wide receivers in the same round with DJ Chark and Jameson Williams? I told you I liked and Danger's up on the clock now. We'll let him focus here. 3
ain't
picks
nothing
left
to focus
with.
There's only a few spots left. We're good.
Yeah, that's what I figured. But DJ Chark, I like that pick as well. And then Ted Chimes comes back with Jameson Williams here in the 13th round. The guy's not going to miss the whole year. When he comes back, he's wide receiver 1. I mean, that's wide receiver 1. So we saw what Heat was talking about earlier with getting that value for late in the season with DeAndre Hopkins. Made a ton of sense. And Ted Chimes here, even though it's not a vet, a rookie, that type of speed, he was my number 1 wide receiver in this draft. I would have drafted him number 1, not even caring that he would miss a lot of his rookie season.
That's true. I went ahead and did the homer pick, just like my boy Heat. He took his Rams. I'm going to take my 49ers defense. The only thing I care about defense in fantasy is who has the ability to pick 6, who has the ability to force fumbles, who has the ability to make safeties. I want points. And the 49ers are those kind of people. So you had went with Gerald Everett to be the last man with a tight end. We had quite a few come off the board. Is that somebody you were targeting right away? Were you happy with that, or did you just settle with that?
I didn't say his name the whole time. He's number 1 tight end. Every year like this, Gerald Everett's been – I love Gerald Everett when he came out in the draft. Had him higher than where he was drafted. Loved him. He got buried because they also drafted Tyler Higbee, I believe, the year before. So he was buried behind Higbee his entire rookie deal. Had some injuries hit, but every single year, and then he went and played with Russell Wilson in Seattle last year. Every single year he's been in the league, I believe his receptions, his yards, touchdowns, I mean, everything has increased. And now, what are we talking about? Justin Herbert as a possible MVP candidate. You've got Mike Williams. You've got the running backs. You've got Keenan Allen. You got Josh Palmer. After that, it starts to get thin. You've got this receiving tight end that can also inline block in Gerald Everett. And the way Herbert throws that ball, give me Gerald Everett. I'm taking him in every fantasy draft. That's why I haven't been talking much about him. And I'm just confident with him when I grab him here in the 13th round. I'm not taking another tight end.
I absolutely like it, man. I went ahead and followed it up with my boy Tyrion, mostly because that's my favorite character from Game of Thrones.
Nice.
But you know how it works in San Francisco, man. They beat the crap out of those running backs. They fall like flies. And I wouldn't be surprised if by week 6, Tyrion Davis-Price gets his shot.
Yeah, I mean, that's your team, the 49ers. Those 49ers running back drop like flies every year, just like, bringing it back full circle here, just like the cast members on Game of Thrones. I mean, they fall off just like the Red Wedding there in the 49ers backfield. So getting depth in that 49ers backfield does make a lot of sense there.
DrRoto.com, bringing you all your fantasy and George R.R. Martin mixed together.
We had to brush back up on it. Listen, I watched last night. I watched the 2 episodes of the new Rings of Power. We watched all the Lord of Rings. I'm in my 40s. I watched all the Lord of Rings. So I watched the 2 Rings of Power last night. And then, every week that new Game of Thrones drops, I'm watching that as well, too.
I'm going to be, as soon as I log off here, I'm going to watch the Lord of the Rings. So.
Oh, yeah. Let me spoil it for you.
Please do. There you go. Your boy Nico Collins. We talked about him.
Nice.
He gets picked as the second to last pick off of our man Bryce's lineup here. We'll bring these guys back on to talk about their teams when we're all done here.
Nico. It's a great point. Nico, I think he's 6 to 8 touchdowns this year. Nice. I mean, second year. And I'll be honest with you. See, I'll tell you guys I've missed on and guys that I've hit on and where we're at in the process. When Nico came out, I had a 5th round grade on him. He got drafted by the Texans in the 3rd. He had 3 years with Jim Harbaugh, which is NFL coaching staff there at Michigan, still raw coming out of his routes, tripping over himself, clumsy, not framing the ball well. All these different options. Oh, Heat with the Alec Pierce, number 2 wide receiver from Matt Ryan. Great get there towards the end of the draft. But back on Nico, though, I'm eating those words because the first 3 day of camp, like he's stumbling over his route. He's not framing the ball well. He's dropping passes. I'm like, same guy. That's who I thought. After those first 3 day of camps, every single day after that, he got better and he worked on his craft every single day to where I'm ready to eat my words and say I was wrong on Nico. And I think it's because of the work ethic of the young man. 6'4", 220. If he runs an in route, it's over. He just boxes you out like a power forward. So I like the pick there in the 14th round.
Yep, and he followed up with Foreman. You talked that you preferred Foreman over Chuba Hubbard as the backup to CMC,
100%.
which of course is your guy there. Rondell Moore taken on the auto pick by Derek Tate. I love Rondell Moore. He is a candidate for me at the back end of almost every draft. We're going to miss DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 games. And you get Hollywood Brown over there, but Moore is going to be the highest on the depth chart that knows that offense and has played with Kyler.
Tremendously undervalued Rondell Moore. You know, you got AJ Green getting a little long in the tooth. Marquise Brown coming in there. He's got the chemistry right away with Kyler Murray, but he'll be that one and then until D-Hop comes back. So you like the way the Cardinals are set up this year, but Rondell Moore should be that consistent underneath. You get in trouble, you start to bail out the pocket, throw it to me, I'll create. He's Kyler Murray at receiver, you know, where he's able to create just like Kyler can create, and they can play off of each other. And he's high percentage efficient offense to just really, he could be an extension of the running game where you could just throw tunnel screens to him or a little quick drag route. So yeah, I like that pick there. In your draft in the 15th round with an auto pick with Rondell Moore is pretty strong or weak. Either way you want to look at it.
I like it. And then there's Cam
Right.
taking Hardman right behind there, which is the guy I talked about loving at the end of the draft. And he might, he might not come in handy on a weekly basis whatsoever. But let's say you got some bye week woes, you got some injuries. Hardman's a guy that either is going to get you 0 points or he's going to get you 18.
Yeah, 100%. And you touched on it briefly. Heat getting value there in the 15th round as well, getting Deontay Foreman. Deontay Foreman, if he's nothing else, he's smart. And what I mean by that, he's like, all right, I'm going to try to get a resurgence in my career. I'm going to back up a running back that had 400 plus touches and is now starting to have a decline. And Derrick Henry last year. And so he got game action while Henry was out and he flourished in it. So now he moves on from the Titans. And where's he go? The only other running back in the league that's had 400 plus touches in a season that's still active. And so I think, and then he knew he could beat out Chuba Hubbard. And so it's great strategy by Foreman. Smart pick there. And if and when McCaffrey goes down, Foreman will be that lead back for the Carolina Panthers.
Hey, look at that. Fantasy Nab taking the play off the book. Is he listening? He didn't pick a defense. He didn't pick a kicker. He's gonna sit there and just mull it over for the next 4 or 5 days, and maybe even through Thursday, and give himself till Sunday to figure out who he's cutting to fill out his roster. I kind of like that strategy personally.
I get it. And you see, he went ahead and rolled the dice on Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson would have beat out Antonio Gibson, I believe, for that starting running back job for Washington. If it wasn't for the sad news that came out with the shooting, and yes, he's healthy. It missed all the major organs, and they started with him. I can't remember if it was PUP list or IR, so he should be out the first 4 to 6 weeks. But again, you're talking about value for the second half of the season, especially at a position that's so thin, like running back every year, and what he can be. What if Brian Robinson comes back week 7 for fantasy nav? Antonio Gibson's injured, and the offense is clicking. He's got a bell cow.
Yeah, I actually considered him, obviously, because I talked about him with you preseason.
Right.
But I took the San Francisco guy because here's my problem, man, is the bottom of this lineup is going to get churned before I can use him. And I really thought about taking him and trying to stash him, but I'm looking at, Henderson waiting for the opportunity for him to be my starter. I'm talking about Gallup waiting for him to be healthy so he can move up in there. I didn't know if I had room for another guy that I had to wait and hope for. So Tyrion probably is going to get dropped. I'm a churn the bottom of my bench guy, and we only have 5 bench slots in this league. So they're going to churn.
Well, you should drop Tyrion for Arya, because Arya is the only correct answer for the best character on Game of Thrones.
Absolutely love it. Hey, stick around with us, guys. I know that the draft is over, but we're going to keep talking about it. I got probably another 15 minutes or so that I can keep chatting, maybe a little less. We'll see what happens. We have a few people on the line. We have got the reigning champion of the Dr. Roto PPR league last year, the inaugural league. We've got Mr. Cam live from the Northeast. Where you're up by Patriotsville, are you not, Cam?
In my younger days, I could have walked there.
I mean, are you still that close and you're just not capable of walking, or did you move a little further away?
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm within a couple of miles of the stadium.
All right, Cam. So you repeated last year's strategy, which, if I remember correctly, Sam Holt and I gave you a real hard time for, and that was picking Kelsey and coming back with Mahomes. And then lo and behold, you kicked our butts. So you're right back at it.
If nothing else, I'm a slave to tradition and loyalty, you know?
Yep, I like it. So talk to us a little bit about Antonio Gibson. If it weren't for Brian Robinson's accident, would he have ranked high enough to be your first running back?
No, not at all. And actually, that was by accident. He wasn't even on my draft board. I was at 4. I love the position. I love being 4. I figured I had a lot of flexibility, and I was hoping that either Kupp or Eckler would go 1, 2, or 3, so I didn't have to make the decision.
Yeah.
So with both of them available, I flipped the coin and went with Kupp. So then it's like, okay, I went wide receiver, but I didn't think Kelsey was still going to be there at 21. And so he forced my hand to take him. So then it's like, well, if I'm going to take Kelsey, I might as well take Mahomes. And by that time, all the running backs that I was looking at had been scooped up. So it's like, well, I got to take a running back in the 4th round or else I'm screwed.
I like it. Now, Mike Williams obviously knows kind of a 1A, 1B situation with him and Allen. They've been really kind of hand in hand. Singletary, I talked about quite a bit with Jason beforehand. He's one of my favorite running backs this year. He's falling down in that 6-7 rounds, but he really turned it on at the end of last year. Are you really happy to have Singletary as your RB2?
Absolutely, and especially with Gibson, who I wasn't enamored with. I'm like, I need to have a really solid number 2, and with him still there where he was, I'm like, I have to take him. It's a no-brainer,
Yeah, absolutely. You got Hollywood Brown for now is the number 1 wide receiver for Kyler. Can't be mad about that. You've got Knox, who was an absolute touchdown machine last year. Robert Woods, the presumed number 1 in Tennessee. So you got a lot of number 1 guys in value there. Talk about that.
I'm pretty happy with my draft.
Yeah.
As Serena Williams said after she knocked off the number 2 seed the other night, I'm pretty good still,
Yeah.
Nice.
And then she proceeded to get her ass kicked in the third round, but that's okay.
Right.
Well, I wouldn't say a 3-hour match isn't exactly getting your ass kicked, I suppose.
Cam, let me ask you this quick, Cam. If you had to say, let me phrase it like this. You will repeat as champion if you get this from your roster. You will not repeat as champion because of this. And what I'm looking for is like the strengths and weaknesses of your roster.
Well, taking Kupp number 1, I'm banking a lot on the Rams doing well in the injury,
Fair.
situation. And I'm also banking a lot. I think I got 4 Kansas City Chiefs. So, go Chiefs, I suppose,
Nice. Right.
I like it. Well, good luck, Cam. And hopefully you don't win again, because I would like to win.
Right.
I would like to win. All right, let's
Thanks
go
for your time, Cam.
Yeah, thanks for your
Thank
time,
you.
Cam. Appreciate it, buddy. All right, let's go back to Ted, and then we'll get over to Heat in a minute, because I know Heat will talk us through the end of the show. So we'll go to Ted first. All right, Ted, how did the end of the draft fill out for you? Did you like it there? I'm really curious on your thought of Jacoby Myers. I really am baffled by New England's wide receivers, and I can't figure out who's going to be number 1. Obviously, you hope it's Myers. Do you have any insight there? You just like him, or
I've got no insight. I've got nothing. I could have flipped a coin between him
Right?
and Parker.
I hope you had insight, because that's how I feel about their whole damn team. Stevenson or Harris, Parker, they're Myers.
Yeah.
Just who knows?
Yeah, I was considering pairing them up, but Parker got stolen just before me. I think the round or 2 after, but I don't know. I'm just hoping maybe he'll be the wide receiver 1, and in that case, getting the wide receiver 1 of a team that late, I'll take it. If not,
Ted, I want you to walk us through the thought process and where you at with over half your roster running backs, 8 out of the 15 roster spots. What was your thinking process on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I started with the first two, and that's like, I don't know. I really like having two good running backs. The ones in the
Understood.
middle, I'm a bit more iffy about. I just kept seeing the wide receivers I wanted go right before me, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll take this running back. The ones at the end, I'll probably drop them for a kicker and defense, but I was thinking, I don't need a kicker and defense yet. Who has the most chance of seeing their value skyrocket within the next week before I need to pick someone
Nice.
up? And that's,
Yep.
in my mind anyway, most certain
And that's exactly what I was talking about. I don't know if you were listening live,
Absolutely.
Ted, but we were talking about that, how I have used that technique quite a bit in my time. And also, you know, almost all my drafts are 3 wide receivers. This one's only 2. So you only need 2. You don't even need to start one in the flex. So if you load up with running backs, you only need your 2-star wide receivers.
Yeah, I just need to hope that Moore and Cooks don't get hurt, because if they do, I might be in trouble.
I like it. Well, stick around for a little bit if you want to talk about some of the other teams here. And I'm going to go over to Jay, who drafted in the spot before me, and see what he thought of his team. Jay, did you feel like, you were getting abused by myself and Braddock's picks, or were you very happy with your team?
I feel like I was pretty happy with what went on today. There was a run there in the third round where Pitts, Etienne, and Andrews all went. Where I'm not mad about Higgins there, but those are 3 picks that I would have taken right there, especially with not having another running back, with only taking Barkley there. But no, I felt like the draft went pretty well. Getting Mitchell there in the 5th I thought was good value, and Hurts was somebody that I really wanted to take and have some ownership of that I didn't have in any of my teams before. So I felt pretty good about how this went.
Let me ask you, was there some thought going into it with that? Because me and Danger had discussed this a little bit as well. Was there some thought with the Alexander Madison pick that, hey, this guy could possibly give me starter or number 2 reps in a better situation, or was it just best running back there?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both for me. Just looking at how thin my running back room was otherwise, and thinking like, okay, Cook's missed time every season, and Madison is somebody that is bound to get touches at some point. So thinking that he'll probably end up as my running back 2 at some point was definitely a part of the thought process there. So I was pretty happy to grab him at that point in the 12th.
So your Twitter handle says Dr. William there. So do you have some insight into Eli Mitchell that I don't know about? The man I'm a huge 49ers fan, and I really want to take him, but already injured before the season started really freaks me out.
Yeah, and again, that's to me, that's just a hope and a prayer there, and just needing to take a running back there. Not really exactly what I wanted to do, but seeing what was left on the board there, and just hoping that he could get healthy, and because he'll get those reps when he's healthy. That was definitely not my favorite pick, but one I felt like I had to make in the moment.
You grabbed yourself a second tight end. You waited on tight end to the 11th round, got Cole Kmet, and grabbed your second one in Albert O there in the 13th round. Did you go Cole Kmet and then get Albert O as insurance, thinking that, hey, the upside with Fields being a 6'6" target should be tremendous, but just in case it don't pan out, is that why you go back with like kind of Albert O as insurance?
Yeah, you hit it on the head. Really, really high on Kmet this year. I have quite a bit of shares of him across my leagues, with the hope that the upside is there. But being able to snag Albert O there in the 13th was something that, just looking at the rest of my roster, having plenty of receivers, really wasn't the running back situation. It wasn't anybody that I was really high on. So you hit it on the head there. Albert O was sort of the insurance there in case the Kmet Fields connection didn't really work out.
Right.
All right. Well, we appreciate you jumping in, and we're looking forward to an awesome season over at drroto.com. And thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks for hopping on.
All right. We got, let's see who joined us. We got Eric here, Mr. Fantasy Nav, the founder and operator of Pros versus Joes. How are you, sir?
What's going on, boys? How you liking your drafts?
I mean, I'm pretty happy. It's okay. I really don't know that I like being at the back end. We were talking about that pre-show, and neither of us were super thrilled to be at the far back end. And it's okay. It's okay. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Let's
Everything's fine.
let's see where Fantasy Nav, let's see where you're at as far as, the running back position. You got Naji Harris, DeAndre Swift. You started off back to back those first 2 rounds. Then you waited to round 9, but you got a guy that I'm intrigued by how the share works out there in Buffalo with the rookie James Cook, Dalvin Cook's little brother, J.D. McKissick, and then Brian Robinson. So you got 2/3 of that backfield when Brian Robinson comes back. Walk us through your thought process when constructing this.
There's a couple of things that went into play. You were talking about this a bit earlier. The roster structure itself puts a little bit bigger of an emphasis on the elite options at the running back position. So this is actually the first time that I've gone running back in the first 2 rounds, all throughout draft season and best ball season. But with it only being 2 wide receivers, I felt like I could really attack that position later. The other through line, the common thread that I have across really all of my running back options is they should be the lead receiver out of their backfield, in addition to getting a pretty considerable workload of carries throughout the season. So,
well, Eric, I have to say, man, that the Dr. Roto PPR rankings have DeAndre Swift ranked as our number 5 wide receiver on the board, or running back on the board, number 5, and you got him in the back half of the second round.
Yeah, and I agree with that ranking. See, I'm comfortable with DeAndre Swift as my RB1. So to see him here as my second back, that very much so inspired the long run of non-running backs that reeled off the next 6 or 7 picks.
I really love how you I'm not a big tight end early guy, but I don't consider Kyle Pitts a tight end. So for you to get him after your back-to-back running backs, and then you really just hammered wide receiver 5 in a row, and I'll let you explain everybody why you stayed on that wide receiver run. And man, I know you got to be excited the way how that fell after you already secured your starting 2 running backs to get Kyle Pitts as that tight end and put that out of sight, out of mind, and then you just hammered wide receiver.
Yeah, much like you, Braddock. My taste usually has me taking tight end a little bit later, but with how the roster is laid out, I felt like having an elite option made a bit more sense here. But also, I felt really comfortable in that kind of mid-tier grouping of wide receivers. Right?
Excellent point.
Terry McLaurin as a WR1.
Yes.
The only thing that Carson Wentz does well is he's really accurate deep down the field. Terry McLaurin was one of the leaders in unrealized air yards last year, so those downfield looks are going to get hauled in a little bit more often.
That's a new stat I haven't heard. Unrealized air yards. I like that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. He gets targets down there, but they were usually way behind him, way out of reach. Carson Wentz should get him close to him. And then looking at some of the guys that I paired off, Jerry Judy's got a bit of risk there, but balanced it out with Darnell Mooney, who should be, again, near the top of the league in total targets, just nice, steady volume. And then got a couple of lottery tickets, a couple of upside pieces, right?
Elijah Moore, I think, is a steal there in the 7th.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm really shocked why he's been dropping so far. I mean, if you go back and look at his fantasy game log last year, I mean, he had some games in a bunch of them.
He really did. Yeah, if it wasn't for getting a little nicked up down the stretch run, he would have really finished strong. And obviously they brought in Wilson, so that's keeping Moore's ADP depressed. But happy to get him this late into the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to do the draft with us and catching up, man.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a fun one.
Hey, appreciate you, boss.
All right, I know Heat's been jumping at the bit, trying to get up in here. So let's go ahead and click him in. How you doing, Heat?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Mr. Danger?
Well,
about your team.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm happy with my team. We'll see how the first few weeks play out.
Yeah, you had a good team last year, but sometimes that happens.
It does. It does. This is an interesting league too, Heat. You remember we play not only the head-to-head matchup, but we play against the league average.
Yeah. So for me, that's why the running backs are valued, because a lot of people go back into the receiver world, and if your receiver gets shut down, you get 2 for 15. But let's say Ezekiel Elliott still gets 15 carries, then that's going to equate. I don't have to always beat the person I'm playing. If I'm beating half the league or the league average, then I'm well above. Many weeks I would look at that league average like a lot of us, because again, know your leagues, know your apps. With looking at that league average, it's like my team easily can hit this amount. So,
right. So you're playing cash game on DraftKings.
it's literally cash game, but at the same time, the chances I took are well worth it, because even at the end, I had 2 running backs that I was looking at, but I went with the one because of my hate for Mr. McCaffrey that has come up after 2 injury-riddled seasons in having him on those teams.
Yup.
So what do you want to know about? Why you want
nothing?
What
Nothing.
Crazy thing you want to know what
I got
did?
nothing today. I got nothing
I
today.
got you. I got you.
You drafted exactly like I thought you were going to draft.
Exactly. And the thing is I'm actually big on DK Metcalf this year. A lot of people aren't. They don't like Geno Smith. Here's a little fun fact. And this got nothing to do with football. Last year, my daughter thought that Geno Smith starting for that little bit of stretch was the coolest thing. She renamed him Cheeto Smith. I don't know why. All of a sudden, DK Metcalf came alive.
Right?
So
yeah, he played well. He played well with Geno.
Exactly. And I don't expect Geno to maybe start the whole year, right? Maybe he does. But the Michael Thomas and DeAndre Hopkins combo that I've been putting in a lot of these drafts, I can screenshot. I got a 2-hour, 12-minute draft, live video of me in my hometown league where I played the same strategy, because the running backs that I'm going for because I know that I don't really draft in the front of a lot of leagues unless it's like a randomizer. A lot of times I'm drafting at the back because I'm usually in the tops. So I don't get a lot of chances at a lot of good running backs. So like Zeke Elliott, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, of course, a lot of those running backs have been falling to me. I haven't had a chance at someone like Derrick Henry, have had no chance at Jonathan Taylor. So a lot of my lineup constructions had to come through making that initial commitment to that running back, coming back through and taking that chance at receiver, as I explained earlier with DeAndre, is if you can get that receiver, that caliber of a player that thinks, knows, and can be a top NFL receiver over the rest of the fantasy football season, then you have nothing to lose. You just have to get through those 6 weeks. And like you said, with this app, Sleeper app, you're able to get that with other players.
Well, yeah, being able to play against the league average. Let's say those first 6 weeks you only win 2 of the head-to-heads, but you are above the league average every single time. You have an over 500 record, and then you're getting DeAndre Hopkins back.
Yeah, I love that part on Sleeper. I've never played in a league till we did that last year with Sleeper, to where you can be 2-0, 1-1, and 0-2, and it's kind of that. It gives that where if somebody just gets lucky and beats their opponent, like say you get outscored 200 to 190, you have an insane week, it still salvages it somewhat to where it's like not a bad week because of that. And then on the flip side, you get a win because you scored 90 and your opponent had 88 and didn't start a couple people. Right. Then you deserve to still, only get a 1-1 and not take a full 100% win for that week. So I love that concept.
Yeah, I absolutely do. It's a lot of fun. So last question for you, Heat, and we got to wrap this up, but you're probably not starting I don't know. Is Thomas starting week 1? I think that's still up in the air. Let's assume Thomas doesn't play week 1. Hopkins isn't playing week 1. Who's your wide receiver 2? Claypool, Shark. Which one are you going with?
Well, Chark will definitely go right up to there, but then that leaves up the wide receiver, tight end, running back, which I'll probably move in Michael Carter or Claypool, but it'll most likely be Michael Carter for week 1.
You got Akers there too, man.
Well, Akers is already going to be starting, man.
Well, it's only 2 running backs and a flex.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying is I got Akers. I don't got to worry about Akers. That's why I don't even talk about him. But I will say one of the steals, I'm really surprised I got Tallis Goddard that late. That was wild.
One thing I want to ask you before we let you go, Heat, is there any concern with I know you got Michael Carter and you got Deontay Foreman, so you got a little bit of insurance depth there later in the draft. But those first three guys, Akers been banged up in recent years. Elliott has played, but he's lost a little bit and banged up in recent years. And we talked about Derrick Henry and the concern with his. Or are you worried at all with the running back over a 17-game season having that top end production consistently?
So that's where the Foreman play came in, because Haskins was clear my backup that I should have picked. But also in this league, to back that up theory, to do that is where I failed last year, because the injury in Lamar Jackson. This is a prove it year for him. In our league, in this league, it's 4 points for a throwing touchdown. It's 6 points still for a running touchdown. That is where Jackson can be deadly at. So for that, to go back to your question, yes, Henry can go down. Zeke Elliott's going to battle with Pollard. He should definitely battle with Pollard, but that's eventually going to get to him. And I think over the past 2 years, maybe it's just me, he's going to be back. And if you've seen his belly grow over the last couple of years, right? He's getting nice. He's getting that way. He's got the money now. Well, why did he come in so light this year? Why did he come in so built this year? Because he's got something to prove. And as for Cam Akers, it's a boomer bust kind of deal. If he can give me 6 weeks till I get DeAndre Hopkins back and I get this PPR team going, we're good. If not, hey, I guess I'll be somewhere, but no, I won't be at the back.
I dig it. All right, Jason,
yeah.
I got to run. You guys are more than happy to keep it going, but I got to get out of here. Thank you all for your time. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks, Cam. Thanks, Ted.
Quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
Are we writing on these things like we did last year?
Are we what now?
Are we writing a little bio about how we felt we did?
Sure.
As we did last year?
Yeah, help yourself. Ted's on this call right now if he unmutes himself, but I expect him to tweet out this board and do all that. And if we want to put together one article where everybody just throws just a quick little thought about their own team in and put it all out there, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yep. Cool. I'm down for that.
All right, guys. Well, I got to get out of here. Y'all have a great night. And Jason, you know how to end the broadcast, so you guys just end it when you want.
All right, Danger. Hey, we appreciate you doing double duty tonight. And know you had some other drafts going on, hosting while drafting this as well. I appreciate you doing every part. Enjoy the rest of your night. This is Jason Braddock here, still drroto.com, Staff Leagues PPR Draft. We've got a couple people hanging around here. If you've got comments, you can throw it in the chat there as well too. And also, we'll continue to bring guys on. Anybody here from Dr. Roto that wants to chime in as well. We've got Heat. I see Cam here. I know Danger had to run out, so we'll keep it open for a little bit more. If y'all got any more thoughts, Cam or Heat, anything y'all, any final thoughts on the draft tonight?
Well, my final thought is pretty interesting. Since I'm the Foxborough kid, second-year superstar Mac Jones did not get drafted. That is kind of a little bit of an upset to me. I figured he'd be a number 2 for someone, right? Kind of a little bit of a surprise.
There's been a lot, and I know you're familiar with it, Cam, being up there in the area, following that New England team probably closer than any of us.
Oh, God, it's a disaster.
Yeah, so, I mean, with McDaniels leaving, Patricia coming back, Bill Belichick figuring out who the OC is, what the offense is going to be, switching the O-line over to more zone schemes and knowing how hard it is to build that chemistry on a zone scheme early on. I think there's just some concerns, and the way they're built with Ramondre and Damian, Todd Montgomery, all those guys in the backfield, 2 tight end set. It's built more like a game manager type offense, and the defense is stacked.
Yeah,
and
no
so,
doubt.
Yeah, let the defense keep you in games and let Mac Jones manage it with the running game and make the high percentage throws that he needs to.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I don't think Hunter Henry was drafted either. Like you said, they're going to have a lot of 2 tight end sets. And was the Patriot defense taken? I don't think they were taken either.
I don't think the Patriots defense was taken. I didn't see it. But yeah, they'll have a good team. They'll have a good defense this year as well. But as far as fantasy, I think people's probably just scared off a lot of these second-year quarterbacks. not being able to provide that fantasy upside week in, week out. I think Davis Mills, also another second-year guy down here in Houston. It'll be more of a game manager type offense where they're letting Dameon Pierce run the game, making the high percentage throws, move the chains and only taking calculated risks where they're focusing on the defense. I took the Texans defense there, my next to last pick, because they were 12th in turnover margin last year. Now with Lovey taking over the defense and taking over the team and still running that defense for a second year, they're deep in their front seven. It's going to be consistent switching of DNs, D tackles, linebackers, where it's consistent pressure coming. I expect them to be top 5 in turnover margin. So something I look for turnovers because I want touchdowns when I'm drafting defenses. And I think the Texans will surprise this year.
Yep. I like the Texans a little bit this year. I really do. And I like Mills more than Mac Jones, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I'm same as well. Heath, do you have any other final thoughts or anything on the draft before we get out of here?
I mean, we had a really, really good draft, and overall, I loved that. Like you went into this draft kind of like with the same mentality I did, because there's always two guys that are always going to take out that middle half. And when you were bringing it up, it's like you got to be a chameleon. The best drafters always can camouflage to any draft they want to, and it doesn't matter what or where you're at. It's who's presented to you, who you believe in. And that's why for the last couple of years, like somebody like Foreman would get picked over Haskins because of that injury. And that's why I'll pick Michael Carter, because Michael Carter produced for my teams. He doesn't have to right now, but if he does, I'm fine with that. So my last thoughts on this draft and everybody that's part of it is that a lot of people got who they wanted. Maybe picking at the back of the end draft isn't the most fun, but if you want to go double running back or double wide receiver at that point, then do it. Don't be scared to change it up. I did a draft and my recent podcast was about it. And I took Kelsey 3rd overall because all the receivers were different. And I screenshotted it, put that thing out there. Don't be scared to go outside your norm, because that's what will cash that league for you. And if you don't cash first place, hopefully you get a prize for 2nd or 3rd or 4th.
I appreciate it, Heath. Thank you for all the thoughts, the energy tonight on the draft. I always appreciate having you on. Cam, any final things before we get out of here?
Just looking to repeat.
Nice. There you go. Cam and Heath. That was the championship matchup last year. So
which is probably why we're the two guys on with you right now, right?
There you go. Exactly.
This is why, Cam, you were scared in that. You thought I was going to smash that whole thing.
I did. I thought you were killing me in that game.
But I didn't have anybody. And that's where injuries can play. That's where a lot of this, that's why sometimes you can't just always prepare for the regular season. You need to go do your draft research like everybody and go to the playoff weeks. Man, if you know someone's playing a bottom tier team the last 2-3 weeks and those are your championship weeks, then do it. But you crushed me in the first week of our 2-week matchup for that. You crushed me. And it was up from there. I didn't have enough firepower. My first overall pick, Christian McCaffrey, didn't work out for me. And it didn't work out even in the Scott Fish Bowl. I picked him. And I had so many injuries, and I took that league. And that's what we teach at Dr. Roto. That's what, Jason, you preach. You preach all the time about being consistent and doing the best for your team. And you're on Twitter all the time talking about all these teams. We at Dr. Roto, as a team, prepare everybody for all aspects of fantasy football. Quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, and even if we leave the kickers here on earth, we're still going to not leave the IDP guys, because Roquan Smith is the number 1 linebacker. Aaron Donald is the number 1 defensive tackle. And get ready, even though Kenny Moore had a lot of points in defensive back, Kevin Byard's going to be number 1 this year.
There you go. Heat, all his IDP information all the rest of the Dr. Roto talent that you saw come on for the draft tonight, participate in the draft. We thank them for joining us. You can find all their work, Cam's work, Jonathan, Danger Cole. Johnny also, who we call Danger here, who hosted for the most part tonight. He also produces, him and Mark Larson. They run iLogic Media, and they produce for us over at the Houston Football Show with me and Aaron Wilson as well. So we thank all the work that they do behind the scenes, everything Dr. Roto's done to put this all together. And we're happy for another year. Thank you to Heat and Cam, last year's championship matchup. Congrats to Cam for taking on the championship in 2021. We've had the parades, hand out the roses, and now 2022 begins. Thank you for tuning in. drroto.com. Another year, a big 2022. No problem, Cam. Y'all take care.
Take care.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Enjoy the
Have
night.
a great night, team. Ooh, yeah.